the meeting, just as if you were host.
No stress.
Muted.
Hold on, I forgot I heard.
I had told the play.
Coming over. Hey, you just decided to join us in person, dude? So, okay, somebody's computer. For what? Your speaker.
I got it.
You got it?
Yep.
Did we just mute? Is unmuted there?
Mute there. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, April the 13th, 1:30 agenda session this afternoon. I now call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion on the minutes, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the minutes, the proper second. If there are no objections, the minutes will stand. Okay, we do have, excuse me, a couple of ordinances on final reading. Any questions or concerns over any of these? Okay.
Good.
Moving to ordinances first reading under planning. Any questions or comments under any of these items? And we did also go over public works items last week as well.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can call Councilman Gilbert, we've been working through actually together on a couple
you-
of items.
Can you bring your microphone to you?
We've been working on a couple of zoning items, case 00300039. If I could get, asked the Councilman Gilbert if we've heard from the applicant or the respondents or the applicant or any opposition and what the intent is for this evening on those two cases.
On that particular,
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
on that particular one, on the 0039, I have not heard from Mr. Engel yet. And the neighborhood association, I don't think have been contacted. So I'm gonna ask for a deferral for a week so he can contact the neighborhood association.
Okay, 1 week deferral
Yes.
and 0030.
0030, I'm gonna ask for a month. I did talk to Mike Price and asked him that I want to defer this to him for a month because one, the sign, the yellow zoning sign was posted, but it was at a dead end where no one can see it. And then the other one is the road is so narrow. The people that has contacted me is concerned about the traffic and the narrow road. And I do know Mike Price having his proposal to widen the road, but the problem is he has to get permission from the property owners that's against this to widen it.
Okay.
And one of the statements he said was that they could do without getting permission, but I did call Blight and asked him, and he said, no, they're not gonna recommend that. So I might ask for a month deferral so that they can discuss it and find out what they want to do.
Very good. Thank you,
All
Chairman.
right. Councilman Gilbert, was that your hand, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments regarding either our planning items or the public works that is in District 2? Okay. Moving to resolutions, Madam Clerk, go ahead and read D, but we're going to save that one. We'll be hearing that in committee and Public Safety Committee this afternoon.
A resolution authorizing the city attorney to obtain an interpretation from the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Tennessee on certain provisions of the court order in Brown versus City of Chattanooga, Civ 187-388, on the residency requirements for sworn emergency personnel and to draft suggested language revisions to the city charter at section 3.11, which could be placed on the ballot for a charter referendum if it is not contrary to the January 18, 1990 court order in the Brown versus City of Chattanooga at this time.
All right. And we will hear that in Public Safety Committee this afternoon. All right, Madam Clerk, if you would, 7E, please.
A resolution for the City of Chattanooga to apply for and if awarded, accept a grant award for up to $4 million from the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health for the funding opportunity advancing health literacy to enhance equitable community responses to COVID-19.
All right. We did go over this last week. Any questions or comments at this time about this item? All right, very well. We did cover under Public Works and Transportation F through K last week in committee. Any questions or comments concerning any of these items under Public Works and Transportation? Okay, I'm seeing no hands. Council, if you would pull up your purchasing items for this afternoon. And let me know if you have any questions concerning any of these items. All right, I'm seeing no hands at this time. We will move to our April the 20th agenda. If you would look over that. Let me know if you have any questions concerning next week's agenda. All right, I'm seeing no hands concerning next week's agenda. Moving now to future considerations. It is my understanding that everything that is on your future considerations on the 3-week agenda will migrate onto the 2-week agenda. So if you have any questions or comments, concerns about any of these items making their way onto the 2-week agenda, please let me know at this time. Okay. You're a pretty quiet bunch this afternoon. Okay, now we move to proposed legislation. Does any council person have any proposed legislation that they would like to present at this time for consideration to a committee? Very well. We do have a departmental report. Councilwoman Coonrod. Okay, if you would use the monitor at your desk, the one in front of you. Yeah, I'm looking at those, not necessarily on the screen, on the computer. Okay, Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. I had talked to Phil previously about the Juneteenth ordinance that I had requested to be removed until the new council was sworn in and had the opportunity to look at the legislation. And after speaking with Phil, I discussed the switching it from a resolution to an ordinance. And if he could circulate that around to council, and because tonight we'll find out who those new council members are. And I'd like the opportunity for it to be placed on the agenda for the following week.
Well, let's keep it in our procedures. Let's present it next week during council and decide which committee that it needs to go to. And let's take it through committee, and then at that time, we'll decide if we're ready to put it on the agenda.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
all
And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is bring the park master plan, if we could bring that back up, place it on the agenda or the strategic planning meeting to discuss. After advocating for different parks in where we can place a park in District 9, I found out that we were out of compliance. And part of being in compliance is having that master plan done, a park master plan done. So we could put that in strategic planning again to discuss.
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you make a note to add our parks master plan to our next strategic planning meeting?
And then Chair, just one last ask,
Okay.
that we've been, going back and forth talking about the pay study to try to implement that to increase the pay for our employees. And we were presented with the study that we done. If we can also put that on the strategic planning to discuss what does that look like if we could implement it in incremental steps as the plan presented itself to do.
Okay. Let me figure out what that looks like, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Make a note for us to discuss the pay plan implementation. Let's see what we can present. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may expand on Councilwoman Coonrod's master plan for the parks. Ms. Sullivan, you mentioned in a meeting not long ago, we had funds or the capability, or we needed to do that. That's been on our bucket list for a while to check off. Do I have that correct?
Go, yeah, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Councilman, we actually did an RFP for the Parks Master Plan. It was included in last year's or this year's budget. We did an RFP. We presented that to council and it was tabled by this council. So y'all could just take it off the table. We have contacted, after Councilwoman Coonrod contacted me about that. With that question, we contacted the vendor and they are willing, who was successful for that RFP, and they are willing to continue the work. So this council just has to take it off the table and vote your pleasure.
Okay, thank you for that, because I remember that conversation. And for a point of clarity, is that what Councilwoman is asking to do, is remove that from the table? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
I'll prepare a draft ordinance and get it to you for next week then. Right now, we move to departmental reports. We do have a report from our fire department, and I see that Chief Hyman has his hand raised. Madam Clerk, would you bring the chief in, please?
Good afternoon, council.
Chief, how are you doing?
Good, how are y'all?
Good.
I'm gonna share my screen right quick. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Bear with me.
Technology is wonderful when it works, sir.
Well, it looks great on my end.
I'm sure it does.
All right. For some reason, I am not. How about now?
No, sir.
Well, darn.
Do you have anybody younger than 30 over in the office that can help you with that?
That's a funny statement. I do not. I have tried to share my screen and for some reason it will not work on this one. We're troubleshooting here real quick. I mean, it won't. How about now?
No, you gotta
No,
go back to the Zoom. And there's no.
Oh, I know now.
Yeah. There you go. Share screen.
You got something cooking now.
Hey, look at me go here. What would I do without a Seth?
Go back to the top there.
There we go.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right.
How about now?
We're good, sir.
All right.
We have the screen up, but
No presentation.
Finally got it squared away. All right.
we don't have your slides. We just have, we have your screen, but it's not, we don't have slideshow.
Well, let's see here. Let's try something different. Well, pardon me.
Okay. We have
Yeah,
a
no.
snapshot from the
Right
CFD newsletter.
There you go.
How about now?
I think we're good.
All right. What you should see is our 150 anniversary logo, perhaps.
Yes, sir, we do.
All right, good. I want to talk a little bit about this, our 150. This is kind of, we're just doing some of the snapshots from our newsletter. I want to give a little bit of credit first before I get into this to Lindsay Rogers. She's our public information officer that does all of our press releases on all of our fires and all of our events. And she's really put a lot of work into doing our monthly newsletter, which I've shared with council over the last handful of months, and just kind of gives you guys a snapshot of what all's going on in the fire business. And she does an outstanding job putting all this together and collecting all this information and really really putting a lot of good information on here. And it just shows you how busy we are at times and all the good work that our firefighters do. And that brings me to the 150th anniversary. This is our 2021 is our 150th anniversary that we're proud of. And if you see the logo there, one of our firefighters at Station 6, Lieutenant Julius Hubbard, actually came up with this design. And we're pretty proud of this one. This goes hand in hand with our history book that's about to come out. All of our historians, retirees, and current firefighters have come up with a very well done, professional looking history book that encompasses our history over the last 150 years. And this logo here just kind of represents all three shifts. The red, blue, and green shifts, still with kind of the stars of Tennessee. The laurels on the bottom represent all of our fire stations. And it just kind of encompasses Chattanooga as a whole. Obviously, the Fireman's Fountain is in the center. And we're really proud of this logo. And we plan on doing shirts and that and really celebrating this 150th anniversary. So proud of our guys at Station 6 for putting this design together so we can move forward with it. Yesterday, if you remember, if you saw the news at all, Captain Brad Petty was recognized by the state of Tennessee, State Fire Marshal's Office, for the bravery that he displayed with him and his family during the roadway shooting up in Rutherford County. He saved a woman's life. They were on their way back from a wrestling tournament. He saw a car pull off the side of the road, kind of erratic driving. A guy gets out waving his arms, and of course, knowing Brad, I've known Brad for a number of years, outstanding firefighter, was my lieutenant at one time, really good family. Gets out of the car and actually renders aid to a lady. She'd been shot in the head. He ended up stopping the bleeding and actually saved this woman's life. So super proud of him and super proud that the State Fire Marshal's Office recognized him for what his act of bravery. Like I told him and in the news conference yesterday, it's no surprise to me that he displayed this kind of bravery. He's just a really good individual, excellent father, and outstanding firefighter, and really kind of an example of what the epitome of firefighters as a whole should be. So proud of him. Some of the other stuff that's been going on big with the fire department, we just got done with all of our promotional assessments. So that we can fill ranks from lieutenant, captain, battalion chief. And These tests are extremely difficult for our firefighters. They do a lot of studying, a lot of preparation for these things. They get a written test, and then the most difficult part of it are the actual assessments, where we have evaluators come from around the country that don't know our folks and really evaluate them on the different skill levels that they have to display as officers. It's extremely taxing on them. It's something that we do every couple of years so we can keep up with promotions. But our firefighters did outstanding this year. And we got a lot of feedback from the assessors. And that's kind of what I like about our assessment center and the way that we have it set up, is that we do get feedback from those assessors to not point fault at our department, but to highlight areas of weakness and highlight our strengths as well. And we really got a good grade from a lot of these assessors and the outstanding work that our firefighters do. With any business, there's always room for improvement, and that's what we're continuing to strive for. So we're happy that all of our firefighters got through that promotional assessment center. March alone has been a busy month. We've had a number of commercial fires, apartment fires, patent towers, extrications, commercial fires. That's just busy March, and that's unusually busy for us. We stay fairly busy, but March was kind of an outstanding month for us, and all the stuff that we've had to deal with. The firefighters have really worked their tails off over this last month. It's been green shifts day in the barrel for this month. It seems like a majority of this is hit on green shifts, but even red and blue have been as busy as well. But as you know, patent towers was a big challenge for us and a big challenge for the city as a whole. But a lot of these other ones sometimes go unnoticed, and you'll see the press releases come out from them, from what Lindsay puts out. But our guys have been extremely, extremely busy, and I'm super proud of them for the work that they've done. Last Friday, we hired 29 individuals, thanks to y'all. We went through the entire process, and we had about 162 applicants, and we're able to put 29 individuals in the seats Friday. So we want to welcome our new generation of firefighters coming up that have selected this as their career. They've done a few push-ups and a few sit-ups since then, but we're indoctrinating them and giving them all the tools and resources that we can to help them be successful in this. So we're happy to see that finally get kicked off and keep our staffing numbers up. And lastly, this is a thanks to every single one of you and all the support that you guys have given us over the last number of years. And I just kind of want to highlight some of the big purchases that y'all have approved for us that wouldn't be possible without your approval. Over the last 8 years, we've gotten 15 fire apparatus, and that may seem like a fairly small number, but if you remember how fire apparatus are priced, that's a lot of money. 15 fire apparatus, anywhere from $575,000 to almost $1.2 million per apparatus. That money adds up quick. And as you know, in the past, our fleet is still showing signs of aging, but we are definitely much further than we've ever been. 15 apparatus in the last 8 years is pretty phenomenal. So greatly appreciated there. We've also replaced 2 fire stations in Highland Park and Eastdale. If you remember, the 14 safer funded positions were added to our budget. And I think you guys remember how critical that was for us. Those 14 safer firefighter positions gave us full staffing, at least 5 assigned to each truck throughout the city, which really helped out our squads more than anything. So we're proud to get that. Chief Adams had started the second set of turnout gear, and we've completed that. That's just part of our business now. So every firefighter coming in, the 29 recruits that came in on Friday will get 2 sets of gear. And we've been able to maintain that program over the last few years and have had a lot of success there and really protect a lot of firefighters. And knock on wood, have really cut down on the amount of burn injuries that they receive from being able to have fresh gear on scene. We just purchased 2 fireboats, and that the other fireboat that we had was purchased in 2002 and has finally gone to auction. So replacing the 2 new, or replacing the old one with 2 new ones is super helpful. As you know, our water emergencies continue to escalate, particularly during the summer and spring months when rainfall and more folks on the water. So we're happy to have that. 5 sets of hydraulic tools. Those are all basically your jaws of life, the entire sets that go on there. If y'all remember, that was nearly a $600,000 project that we did to overhaul all 5 of our squads to put all fresh new tools on there. So our squads, I would probably put them up against any extrication company throughout the country on the personnel that run those tools and the highly trained individuals that do it. And without that good equipment, it really hoodwinks their operations at times. So we're proud to have that. We also added a set of trench rescue struts, which were very needed. Our trench rescue program is as good as it's ever been right now, as far as equipment's concerned, and we're continuing to train on that. Also, personal equipment is extremely important for the firefighters, and all this is stuff that we really focused on for them and stuff that they need to do their job. So we made a transition to traditional style helmets, which is a nice leather helmet that's weighted a little bit better. Leather boots. If you remember before, any firefighters that wanted leather boots had to buy them out of their own pocket. We were able to capture that in our budget and get leather boots for every single firefighter out there. As you know, if you've got miserable feet, it makes a miserable fireman. So we're happy to have that. We've also gotten them, every firefighter's gotten flashlights, wire cutters, and rain jackets, which are super important. And those are all things that firefighters had to buy themselves in the past. Another big upgrade that we did with the self-contained breathing apparatus. We did a full upgrade early on about 6 years ago. And to have a full upgrade of all of our SCBA is another expensive project. But the shelf life on those is about 15 years. So we'll be getting quite a bit of life left out of those. You all have also heard me talk about Target Solutions software. That's a lot of our online platform that we've been able to do, and that's really helped free up a lot of our scheduling so we can add more classes to our annual calendar and just be a little bit more proactive in how we do that. And none of that software would do any good if we couldn't have the Chromebooks for each of the stations. So every station, we added a whole bunch of Chromebooks to those stations so that they can use those for their online training. That kind of goes with Target Solutions. A lot of our stuff is hands-on training, but we like to back it up with a little bit of education on the online stuff as well. So that program has been extremely successful for us. And then lastly, we did a full replacement of all our ballistic vests. Our ballistic vests were out of date and ready to be upgraded, and we're fortunate enough to get all that done and help protect our firefighters that much further. So all of those things, those are some of the big projects that we've done over the past 8 years, even with the change in administration here. And we're just happy to have all that. And it's just a really big thanks and to each and every one of you. And thank you for all your continued support. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. So first of all, congratulations. There's a lot of great work that's been done for the fire department. I know that we have some challenges ahead of us. One of those looming on the horizon is definitely addressing the pay scale.
Yes, sir.
But can you tell me real quick, how many are we down to our full staff?
We had 38 vacancies up until Friday, and 38 of those, I was able to fill 29 of those.
Okay, very good. So we're cutting into that. The second part is we've talked a lot about, it wasn't on your list, but it's something I know you and I have talked about quite a bit, and that is access to PTSD services. Are we moving in that right direction? Are we going to see a glimpse of that addressed a little bit more in your upcoming budget proposal?
It is something that is a top priority for us. And I do believe that HR has made some progress of putting, I believe we had just hired a new PTSD specialist for that. I'm really hopeful that that grows into something exactly what we need. Obviously, one person is not going to be able to handle the workload from police and fire, plus everyone else in the city. So I'm really looking for some guidance on that to help us expand that program. It's in its very infancy when it comes to that one particular person that was hired, but I look forward to that program growing, and it will take some support to get there.
Very good. I'm excited for that hire as well. So Chief, keep up the great work. We're very proud of what you all have accomplished. And that list is impressive over the last 8 years. I know we have some other items that we need to address, and we look forward to getting that taken care of in the future.
Thank you again. Thanks for your support.
All right, any other questions for Chief Hyman? All right, Chief, great job, sir.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you excuse our guest, please? Councilwoman Coonrod? Okay, it's not coming up. Councilwoman Coonrod, was this for Chief Hyman? Oh. Got to multitask. Okay. Madam Clerk, bring the chief back in for just a minute. I'm sorry. Okay. Chief, I excused you too soon.
That's all right.
Councilwoman Coonrod has a question. Councilwoman?
I can't hear you.
Push the button. The red light's on? Hold on one second. IT, can
Can you
you,
hear me?
you got her
I
now?
got you now.
Right now.
Y'all can't listen. We ain't finna start this term off with mute my mic. Thank you, Chair. Chief, thank you for the presentation. I feel like we don't recognize our firefighters enough because you guys do a lot of stuff. And like you guys are on the front line of a lot of things, not just for fires, you know, and you risk your lives quite often. I mean, we always talk about the police and how they go into, you know, when people shooting and things like that, but the work that you guys do, it needs to be more recognizable. And I'm looking forward to the day where we could most definitely apply a pay increase for you guys. But thank you again for all the great work that you're doing. And just wanted to check on the project with the new East Step, the Station 15, like where do you know where we are with that? When the building will?
Yes, we are still acquiring property. We had one last piece of property that we had to do a quiet title on. And that process takes about now it will probably take about 4 more months to complete roughly. They said that was a 6-month process to make sure that one piece of property had a clear title on it. Once that's done, we've already done some design work. We have a couple different options. There's one piece of property that we will not be able to secure, but we'll still be able to build around that one piece of property. It probably wouldn't have, we can build a fire station either way around that one small piece of property. But we're just really waiting on the quiet title action to get done, and then we'll be able to move forward. We've had several meetings with the design and have some basic plans laid out in a couple different configurations. Once we secure that property and we know we can move forward, Public Works is ready to get started, and the architect has really done a lot of work to help us get there. So we're making movement. It's just kind of slowed down right now with the quiet title action that we're waiting on.
Thank you, and great job with the recruitment efforts. I see you got some Black firefighters on board. I'm excited about that. Just one last thing. It may seem small, but it's really big. Because we talk about diversity, inclusion, and all that kind of stuff. And I would really love to see the unions migrate together. So we're no longer operating in silos with the white firefighters in this union and the Black firefighters are part of this union. When we both of them have the same goal. So they need to be one cohesive union together. So I'd like to see that happen, hopefully in the future.
We have a lot of those conversations, and I think we are all on the same page about hiring diversity. recruitment is difficult for us. Not having a recruitment officer, not having a recruitment division, it makes it extremely difficult on us. And I have to rely on firefighters to go out and personally recruit individuals to come work here. And that poses us a lot of different challenges. It is very difficult. And I think you're really onto something. I think the more that we all work together and are in lockstep with that, the more we can get done. So I share your exact sentiments, and we'll try to work towards that for sure.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Chief, before we let you
Kick
leave
me
this,
out.
I tell you what, just stick around because our next committee is a public safety committee meeting, and we do have Chief Roddy on the call as well. So we will, before we go into public safety committee, I would like to tell the council that we need an attorney-client privilege meeting at the end of this session. So we do need to save time for that. At this time, there is nothing else for departmental report. So we will go into public safety committee meeting. Councilman Byrd is tied up at work, and so I'll just handle public safety from the chair position, if that's acceptable with this council. So at this time, I will call to order the public safety committee meeting. Could I get approval of the minutes, please?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes as they are recorded. With no objections, they'll stand as recorded. We do have a couple of resolutions. One, let's go ahead and read for next week, Madam Clerk, 7C, please.
A resolution authorizing the police chief to accept $89,107 from the Department of Justice, Office of Justice Program for the 2020 JAG grant.
Okay, is there any questions or comments on this particular item? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you would, let's go ahead and bring in Chief Roddy. And if you would, let's go ahead and read under resolutions 7D, and that's what we will be discussing this afternoon.
A resolution authorizing the city attorney to obtain an interpretation from the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Tennessee on certain provisions of the court order in Brown versus City of Chattanooga, Civ 187-388, on the residency requirements for sworn emergency personnel, and to draft suggested language revisions to the city charter at section 311, which could be placed on the ballot for a charter referendum if it is not contrary to the January 18, 1990 court order in Brown versus the City of Chattanooga at this time.
All right, I think it was a couple of weeks ago when we had legislative committee, we heard the resolution in that committee at that time. And I think Councilman Gilbert had a couple of questions concerning numbers, I guess, recruitment numbers and so forth like that. Councilman Gilbert, you want to restate the questions and concerns that you had at that time?
Well, they wouldn't have information for, they didn't have it last time we spoke about it. So would it have
Is my understanding that Chief Roddy has been working on that, sir.
it would have been nice for him to say something like that. Had this meeting, so I would have liked what it was sent to me, so I will be able to read it and digest it. Chief Roddy?
I apologize, Councilman. You were muted for part of that, so I couldn't hear everything you were saying. It sounded like that you had wished that the information that was supplied to me from Human Resources had been supplied to you as well.
Yeah, I would like to have studied it and looked at it and have any questions before to this meeting I could have asked.
I can send that to you, sir.
I appreciate that.
Chief, if you would, go ahead and just share with the council then at this time. Let's just go ahead and hear what you've put together for us.
We asked Human Resources to basically go into the employment system that tracks where we work and how we separate from the agency. It quantifies this in several different ways relative to the reason you left employment with the Chattanooga Police Department or the Fire Department or Public Works or anything else. And one of those is reason leaving is deceased, disability job related, disability non-job related, Then we have a classification of discharged. Then we have a classification of other. Then we have resigned insufficient notice, resigned with notice, retirement, and I believe that is the end of the classifications. Some of those are a bit of a misnomer that we are going to have to look into to see what exactly that means relative to a separation with the classification of other. I can't answer what that is. Looking at the names of some of the individuals that were separated due to an other classification, they were actually terminated. Now, not all of them. So I'm saying all that to say, Councilman Gilbert, specifically, when I send this information over to the council, the numbers are not going to be exact if you're trying to get a percentage or a separation percentage relative to it. What I can say, looking at what we have right here, is our numbers of attrition over a flatline average over the last 5 years have gone up, specifically gone up in recent months to the last year or so. Whereas our normal attrition rate prior to around 2019, 2020 would have been 3.4, 3.5 per month, and it continued with that. Now that is for non-retirement attrition. That doesn't count retirement attrition. That number has gone up in the last year and a half to where we on certain months can spike up to as many as 8 separations for retirement and non-retirements, and then holding a consistent between 5 and 6 for non-retirement attritions over the last year, year and a half. Now, again, we have to massage out some of these classifications because they don't give us clear data or 100% accurate data. And that's what we're going to work through. But I can tell you that the attrition rate of the police department has gone up in recent times. It's a difficult time to be an officer. I can also tell you that we've had officers leave employment with the Chattanooga Police Department in the last year to get out of law enforcement altogether. So it is not only are your numbers of officers getting smaller through attrition in the organization, your applicant pool is going down as well. Thankfully, we do have the sworn pay study that is going on right now so that we can work towards getting our pay back into a competitive line with other agencies, specifically agencies our size, and also specifically towards lateral application. We do not have an over-incentivized lateral application salary, so we're not enticing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5-year officers that are leaving their agencies to go to work for another law enforcement agency. However, we are losing an officer here or there to just that. They're going other departments making more money. I will say that we've had individuals, as I said a moment ago, leave to get out of law enforcement altogether. I say all that to say, though, as a sense of pride for our police department, in the last 2 months, I've had, I believe it's 4 individuals who voluntarily separated with the Chattanooga Police Department who have come back and asked for their jobs back. They've gotten out and either experienced another profession and realized that being a police officer is what they want to do. It is how they want to serve their community, or they joined another department. And I guess to sum it up, the grass wasn't as green as some individuals might have thought. So they're coming back to work for your police department because it is a good police department. It is full of fantastic men and women and a community and a council that supports it. So I'm saying all that to say, we're trying to hold on and we're getting the ones back that we have, but recruiting police officers is harder now than it has ever been. So in order to get the numbers we need to do to simply staff the number of people to fill the districts, to make our academies as full as they can be, I'm encouraging this body to approve just seeking an opinion on whether we can expand that residential area outside of the state of Tennessee. As it sits right now, I can recruit an individual from Shelby County and they can work at the Chattanooga Police Department, but I can't recruit someone from Catoosa County. I can recruit somebody and let them live in Hamilton County where they can drive their take-home car, and they will drive that a greater distance than if they worked just over the line in Georgia. So all that being said, this last academy that we put forward, which, and I can read the numbers if the council would like for me to, as I've explained before, we hit a higher inclusion and diversity rate in the current academy than in any academy that I can remember in the history of this police department relative to minority hiring. It's a deliberate action. It is worked on by our entire recruiting unit, our command and executive staff, and members of this police department to help this police department look like the community that we serve. to be part of the community that we serve. But to get those numbers to where we actually can staff, I need to have a larger applicant pool. We have open seats in the academy that we have right now because we weren't able to hire up to the number that we wanted, because individuals took jobs elsewhere or decided not to work in law enforcement. So all I'm asking this group to consider is, it's not changing our focus on minority recruiting. It's not changing our focus on hiring qualified men and women to be a Chattanooga police officer. It's simply giving us a larger number of individuals to actively recruit and hopefully get qualified cadets and then qualified police officers.
Thank you, Chief. Councilman Gilbert, any follow-up?
Yes, I got a couple of questions for Chief. Chief, does not Hamilton County pays more than the city officers right now?
Depends on the line item. It's when they hire in. As far as starting pay between us and Hamilton County, no, I don't believe so. Now, the Hamilton County, though, is not a heavy attrition point for us. We've only had a few officers that have left our department to go work for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. So that's not a major point of officers leaving us going to work for the county, no, sir.
Well, the ones that I spoke with that had left, they said the main reason was cause of funds, money. Also, you know, you said about the other areas that you would like to pull from. I think that if we did increase our salaries to that, Solid Days, Red Bank, East Ridge, Ray County, closest to us, Cleveland, we might pull from there and they'd be already trained to join our forces if our pay was compatible. But I don't think it is currently. Do you know why that Brown versus City, that language was put in there?
My understanding, it had to do with voting consideration. Other than that, Councilman, no, sir.
I'm speaking of this specific thing about the ratio of pulling police or firefighters or any city employee from other areas like Georgia and Alabama.
No, sir, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, my understanding was it's based off of the ratio of Blacks that work for the city in general, that there was not a good ratio at all during that time. And as you say, it's not that way now. And that's one of the main reasons that I understand that that's the reason why they actually put that language into that particular case, because of that reason. They feel, now probably still the same way, the rural areas you're speaking of is mostly not African Americans at all. There's very few in the areas, North Georgia, Alabama, certain parts of Alabama where you're gonna be close to Chattanooga. So that means that you're going to make it more or less opportunities for African Americans to show up if they did have an opportunity to join. I do know that you said you had a recruiting person, but my understanding from some of your own officers that just not working for as recruiting and getting the right ones there, or someone that is 18 of age that say made a mistake or whatever it may be, that mistake falls on the entire time of their life when it comes to trying to join the fire department or police department. You know that the ratio of crime that is statistically known, that more African Americans get arrested for its ratio than any other race it is. So it's kind of difficult if you want to find more people to go in these areas that you can actually find because of that reason. So that's the reason why I'm against it, because of you're gonna water it down some more by getting the other areas. And I believe that if we increase our pay, then you can pull from other areas that's just already trained. I mean, we could save what, $80,000, $100,000 by having a trained person already ready to go in our police force.
I agree absolutely, sir, with the incentivization of increasing pay to entice lateral transfers of already post-certified officers. I will absolutely disagree with the fact that our recruiting unit is being framed as not achieving their target, considering our last academy class was a more diverse class than in the history of the department. Also, to incentivize from a minority recruitment standpoint, from a lateral perspective, with the typical demographics of most police departments, especially in some of the jurisdictions that you mentioned, not reflective of the demographics of those communities, and being predominantly white police departments, to believe that we would hit a larger minority goal through lateral academy positions, as opposed to direct recruiting for new hires into law enforcement. I think your agency has a greater ability to try and hit those recruiting targets through new applicants as opposed through a lateral application. I think the percentages line up a little bit better in certain areas. So while yes, sir, I do completely agree. More pay will increase our ability to hire and retain police officers. More salary, especially in your 2, 3, 7, and 8 year marks within the career path, will provide for greater lateral incentivization. It still comes down to the fact that I could have hired 40 cadets in the current academy class and I positioned 24. I need more applicants to apply to be a police officer. So if the size area that I'm able to recruit from doesn't get larger, I've got to do something different. So, or I'm going to achieve the same result all over again in my next class. And I think that next result is an ability to increase the footprint where we draw from quality, qualified applicants.
Councilman Gilbert, let me, I've got a couple more hands up. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here because of the Brown versus the city of Chattanooga, because they wanted to make sure we had equitable distribution of representation. So I'm here to fulfill that for District 9, as other people are as well. I think, first I would say, I think the police department, you all are doing a great job. I do appreciate you, Chief, for always being open-minded and transparent and honest, you know, and answering questions that a lot of times people don't want to address. I really thought about this piece of legislation. Like, what would it mean? What would it do? How would it benefit us? And we often fall back to the tale of, well, how are we going to get more Black people to be a part of the police department, or we're not able to recruit Black people. We're not able to, and you know, it's always the narrative of Black people, Black people, Black people, Black people, which keep Black people in the cycle of victim mindset, my personal opinion. And that conversation is really growing old with me. We need to be honest about what's happening with Black people in Chattanooga. Black people, one, continue to marginalize Black people and prevent them from wanting to become a police officer. We need to address that first. That's an issue within the homes, how it's presented, because Black families have been so afraid of police throughout the years. And, you know, that's a fear tactic. So we look at the police as a bad thing. It's bad to become a police because they kill us, they beat us, they this, they that. That's the narrative that's created on the national level. But when you research in Chattanooga, like, when was the last time have that happened? When have our Chattanooga police killed a Black individual? When have the police, you know, I got pulled over by them. If that happens, and you know, we can deal with that when those things that happen, but on the national level, how we often boost it up, it affects us on a local level when it comes to recruiting Black people. The pay, I will say, like, I would think that the pay is part of the problem. When you got people that's got degrees coming out of college, I mean, they're not thinking about coming to be a police officer if they're not even making enough that can cover their student loans. But also, we need to address the test, because when Chief Fletcher was here, he changed the test. He's from Texas, and that test is similar from coming from Austin, where our kids don't learn in that way, and they're already attending schools that are deemed as failing schools, so their comprehension level is not going to be up to what that test is saying they can't even recognize vocabulary words or even mix match, whatever it is. Maybe we need to look at changing the test back to what it was before Chief Fletcher changed it from the beginning. because more people were able to pass that test. We can look at that as an option as well, but I think we just, Chief, we gotta be honest about what's really happening. And I know coming from a white man, and for you to say that, they'll say, oh, he's privileged, he's this, he's that, or even coming from Chief Hyman. But we gotta call it what it is and stop those conversations and figure out how we gonna work together to get Black people to be a part of the police force, or get Black people to wanna become a firefighter. We gotta start sharing it in a positive light and stop looking at the negative. This legislation been in place for I don't know how many years. And growing up as a kid, the same amount of Black people that's on the fire department and the police department is the same amount of Black people that's probably still there now. So we got to make it interesting for people to be a part of it. I signed up to be a part of the police academy because I wanted to see the inside to get it more detailed so my biases can be removed out of the way. And I want to encourage my constituents in District 9 to do the same, because the past 2 classes that I've attended, it's given me a deeper understanding. I look at it, I view the police differently. And then it's just taking a moment to really think about exactly what would you do if you was in that situation. We see that happening now with people that's not even on the police force. They shooting and killing each other, but we don't have that conversation about why. Oh, why should we put down guns because they killing everybody? We just always resort to this victim mindset that keeps Black people just marginalized, depressed about it, and not able to move past poverty to enter into a career that could be beneficial for them and their families because of the narrative that and the perception from Black people. So for me, I talk to, both unions, the Black union, the white union, and really talk to them about, what would you like to see? And the end result was that they need to have quality people that, that want to be a part of this profession. It doesn't matter where they live at, as long as they can come in and they want to do the job. They're not just taking the job, waiting on the next job to come along because, they hadn't found it right then once they got their degree. So we really, working with recruiters, maybe, go taking them to the hood. And I'm using that just saying to the Black areas, the inner city, it's not gonna help Black people come say, I want to be a police officer. Again, if the narrative created inside the homes is something different than what we're projecting. That's just my take. I'm really ready to move forward with it if that's the will of the council. Because again, Brown versus the city of Chattanooga allowed for me, a Black woman, to sit in this seat that I'm in now. We've got more people Black that's been serving on this council. It's time we keep preaching about this diversity, inclusion, equity. We're doing that, and it's time for us to move on.
May I respond, Chairman?
Yeah, please.
You're spot on, Councilwoman. This is not taking opportunities away from individuals that live in Chattanooga. This is potentially removing barriers or providing opportunities to men and women that live, we'll just go with North Georgia, that want to be a firefighter or a police officer. If you look at how agency representation, even by its greatest goal, is supposed to look along the lines of the demographics of the community that you serve. If you pull the county demographics for your counties across North Georgia, you have a very small African-American representation just through the population census, some below 1%. I've run the numbers, 18 to 24-year-old Black males and females in 3 of your North Georgia counties. You may only have about 1,000 individuals by the last census that would match that. That is, and we don't even hire until 21. So that number is a little bit smaller, but we'll hire you up till 40. So you can speculate on whatever that number you want it to be. But right now you're talking about possibly giving an opportunity to a man or a woman that lives in North Georgia that can't move to Chattanooga, whether that's through family considerations, court considerations, whatever that may be, but they want to be a police officer or a firefighter. You give them the opportunity to do that. You just talked about how to get more African Americans in our community, and community doesn't always stop at a state line or a county line. It would give more people the opportunity to be a first responder in this community where they may not have or believe they have the opportunity to be that in the community that they live in. And I'm not saying that there's a type of racial or prejudicial hiring practices. the police department or the fire department may already look like the community that it serves, but that number is so small that the perception could be that I don't have the opportunity to be that where I live. But I can drive 15 minutes that way to be a cop or a firefighter in Chattanooga and get my dream. That's the type of individual that we would like the opportunity to recruit and see if we can get them hired into the Chattanooga Police Department as a qualified applicant.
Thank you, Chief.
Sir.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay. And this is really important conversation. I guess my question is for Phil.
Yes,
Phil,
ma'am.
have you, I know we haven't passed or the resolution or all this stuff, but this isn't surprise. We've been talking about it for several weeks now. Have you had a chance to look at the impact of the federal decision?
Well, the federal court order is still in effect
I
at
know
this
that.
point in time. The provisions of the order did require people to be at least registered voters in the state of Tennessee. That was adopted in our charter, which would have to be amended at this point in time to reflect that based upon the order. I guess the issues that y'all need to be thinking about in connection with expanding the pool of people that would be employed is what type of training those folks have received previously. If those folks have received training in a different agency in another state, are those agency requirements the same as what you might have here in
I
Tennessee?
thought what we were looking at
Yes, sir.
was whether or not the federal court, whether the order was still in place sufficiently or not,
Yes.
so that we could amend our charter. Have we found that out yet?
The order is still in effect. If the order could be at least released in that regard to allow us to do that, that's something we'll have to request from the court.
So have we done that?
No, ma'am, not yet. Y'all have not passed a resolution yet.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Does the court have an idea, since we've been talking about it for nearly a month, that we might
We
be
have
asking
gathered
that?
records from their archives files at this point in time from the court. Judge Edgar is no longer on the court. We will have to ask someone whether they will be willing to lift that restriction. As long as they're willing to do that, then we're fine.
So we can do that pretty quickly, right?
Yes, ma'am. We can file
So
something
if
quick.
we pass the resolution tonight, then it's just a request of federal court. Could this be lifted?
Yes, ma'am. We'll have to wait on them to tell us. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Burrs actually hit on my question to Phil, which was, as I'm reading this, and let me just say, fantastic and very on-the-spot conversations about this are being had, and I applaud, and I'm glad you're sitting over there too, because this is good. So Phil, my question to you is, this is a resolution, and we're simply just asking to get an interpretation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're not, I mean, this conversation that we're having now, albeit extremely important and setting the tone for what could possibly happen down the road. But this resolution tonight is just asking for an interpretation from district court.
Yes, sir.
And that's all that it's really doing.
Yes, sir. And if that interpretation allows us at this point in time to make an amendment to our charter,
Mhm.
then the people of the city will make that decision on that by vote, as we do by our charter
Very good.
amendments.
And in the spirit of inclusion, that would actually go to the people for a vote
Correct,
and would not be up to this body,
correct.
but it would go obviously to the people for a final decision. And it would be in their hands as to whether or not this was something they wanted to do.
Yes, sir. And that would have to occur at a general election, which would be a November type election the next time that occurs.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate again the conversation we're having about this, and I am really, that's the interpretation and the suggestions are what I wanted to get to the core of what this resolution is about this evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Phil, let me get a point of clarification here. I think this is a two-part process.
Yes, sir.
One, if we pass this resolution, we get an interpretation from the court.
Yes, sir.
You craft language, but this body has to vote whether to put this on the ballot or not.
Yes, sir.
So this would have to come back before the body for a vote to put on the ballot.
Yes, sir. That has to be done by ordinance. Yes, sir.
Yes. So it would have to come back. This resolution is really just about getting an interpretation.
Yes, sir.
There would need to be another step. Councilman Ledford. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure we was clear on that. Okay. It looks like that we've gone around the horn. Councilman Gilbert, I'm going to come back with you. Did you have any follow-up?
No. No, I still feel the same way.
Oh. Okay. All right. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Chief, listen, if you're gonna be around in about 16 more years, I got a 5-year-old who wanna be a police officer right now if she could. And every time she see a police officer, she wanna hug them and tell them thank you. Because what she saw when her dad was shot and killed was she saw white male officers doing everything that they could to save her dad's life. She saw white male officers transport her to safety until her grandmother could reach her. So every time she see a police officer, every time, it's just thanks coming from a 5-year-old. So I just ask, parents, if you don't strip that dream away from any child that has a positive interaction with the police department, because as they get older, what that does is it takes a negative perception. And so I could never change her mind about wanting to be a police officer or the love that she have for you guys. So I just appreciate all the work that you all do in our community.
We'll go ahead and get her started in the process now, Councilwoman, if that's okay. And thank you.
Chief Hyman, let me ask, do you have anything to interject from the fire department side on this resolution?
I'll just reiterate what Chief Roddy said. He has the same problems I have when it comes to recruitment. I had a whole series of numbers and slides and all that, but he pretty much summed it up as a whole. Just a quick example. Our training chief, black male, outstanding individual, relocated his family from North Georgia to live in the city of Chattanooga to be hired here. I had to move out of Red Bank at the time to move here to get hired. And those are all barriers that I can't tell you how many applicants we've probably lost because of that. If those folks wouldn't have had that kind of commitment to move in this area, we would have missed out on some really outstanding folks. And I can't brag on our training chief enough for uprooting his whole family out of North Georgia to move to the state of Tennessee. And what a great hire. And just so many of those individuals have fallen by the wayside that we don't even know about. But again, it's all the same problems that Chief Roddy identified. And I'm just happy that we're talking about it at least and trying to get some perspective around the whole thing. But we do a number of things in the fire department. Word of mouth is our best tool for hiring. And it's our informal recruiting is the only way that we get anything done. We've tried minority internship programs that yielded only 4 minority hires, 3 of which are still here. We use social media, career fairs, public safety camps, our Future Ready Institute at Brainerd High School, our Explorer Post. We've tried with very little success, and even partnered with Chattanooga State in the fire science program. So we're trying to take every single avenue that we can to make an impact on that. And like Chief Roddy says, we try to match the demographics of our city. And we're pretty close, but we still have a gap there. And I think it's just important that we keep pushing forward, and appreciate you guys listening and at least trying to help us solve a problem that frustrates us at the same time.
Okay, any other questions for either one of the chiefs before we adjourn our Public Safety Committee? Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. I see no other hands. Madam Clerk, you can dismiss our guest.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, chiefs. And if there are no other questions at this time, we will adjourn our Public Safety Committee meeting. We do have Economic and Community Development Committee. Councilman Oglesby, I'll now turn the chair over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes. And it's been properly seconded. Thank you, Councilwoman. Madam Clerk, let's proceed by reading Resolution 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into an agreement with Chat TN LLC, the Chat Inn, for non-congregate COVID-19 related housing for up to 100 households currently experience homelessness for a 90-day period beginning April 13, 2021 and ending July 12, 2021, with an option to extend the agreement if funds are not extended for an additional 90-day period for a FEMA reimbursable amount not to exceed $341,250.
Thank you very much. Now let's proceed to 7B.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into an agreement with Security Engineers, Inc. for non-congregate COVID-19 related security services at the Chat Inn for up to 100 households currently experiencing homelessness for a 90-day period beginning April 13, 2021 and ending July 12, 2021, with an option to extend the agreement if funds are not extended for an additional 90-day period for a FEMA reimbursable amount not to exceed $61,100.
Thank you. Now let's read 7C.
A resolution waiving the fee for use of Ross Landing is estimated at $26,000 by Friends of the Festival Riverfront Nights Free Community Summer Music Series beginning on Saturday, June 5th, 2021, and each Saturday through August 28, 2021.
Thank you. Now let's proceed to Tuesday, April 20th. Resolution 7A.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to award up to $40,000 per house for a total amount up to $120,000 in home program funding to Habitat for Humanity to assist with the new construction of 3 affordable homeowner units located at the following addresses: 239 Canary Circle, 305 West 37th Street, and 3410 Kirkland Avenue.
Seeing no hands, that is the last item for this particular section of Economic and Community Development. Now we will move on to our presentation. Madam Clerk, would you please bring up Sandy Gover and Donna Williams? And we will have a presentation on the CDBG and the ESG funding recommendation. Ms. Gover, okay, there you're off mic, okay, off mute rather.
Yes,
Okay, do you have a presentation for us?
I do. Karen, are you going to bring it up for me?
Sure. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. How are you all doing?
Good.
I didn't want to try to pull that presentation up myself and fumble through it.
No,
Thank you,
good,
Karen.
good move.
All right. Well, again, good afternoon. I just wanted to make a quick little presentation to you in regards to the 2021 community development funding that the city receives from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This is every year we make the presentation to you as we are preparing to visit and analyze the funding that we're going to get and determine how that funding will be used in the community. Karen, you can go to the next slide. Karen. Are you, am
Hey, Karen, I think you can just arrow down, Karen.
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
a PDF? It's a PDF.
Yes,
Ms. Gover?
it's
Yes.
a PDF. Yeah.
Mr. IT, could
Yeah.
Karen's screen says it's frozen.
Oh, here we
Ah,
go.
here we go.
The IT guy came down and scared the computer to work. Yeah. I don't want him messing with me. Let me act right.
Okay, so again, I'm just gonna kind of quickly present to you the community development funding and the recommendations for the 2021 action plan, and then also kind of give you some highlights about the process and the requirements associated with getting the funds out into the community and expending them. The next slide, Karen. The community development grants that the city of Chattanooga is receiving, I think you're all familiar with these are the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership Act funding. We typically in the past have received 3 grants, and one of the other grant is the Emergency Solutions Grant, but we now receive that allocation directly from the state of Tennessee. Karen, the next one. The Community Development Block Grant, it's primarily for community development type activities for the development of viable urban communities through decent housing, suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunities. That's the purpose of the funding. The Home Investment Partnership Act funding, that funding is provided principally for affordable housing activities. That's the preservation and production of affordable housing, as well as improving access to affordable housing. And the one of the requirements is the participation in local leveraging. So the home funds do typically require a match, and we do satisfy that match through partnership with for-profit organizations or nonprofit entities when we are carrying out activities with them. The next slide, Karen. This is the estimated funding that we will be receiving or expect to receive. The ES Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG, we are anticipating getting about 1.5 million home, that a little over 800,000 for a total of the 2.3 million. The program income, this is derived from projects that have taken place in the past. Primarily, it's through Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise. We allocate this funding to them for homeowner activities, homeowner rehab, assisting families in purchasing homes. And when those loans are repaid to CNE, CNE submits the funding back to the city, and we make that part of our budget. So the overall budget that we're talking about working with this fiscal year is the $3.2 million. This is a little less, maybe about 200,000 less than we had available last year. We received less, about 150,000 less in CDBG, and we also received slightly less under the home grant for this coming fiscal year. Karen, using the funds, every dollar that we use, of course, we are held to requirements from HUD in getting the funding out into the community. Every dollar that we expend or use has to tie in with one of these national objectives, which is to, and the majority of them do tie in with benefiting low to moderate income persons. Aid in the prevention of slum and blights, that sort of comes into play when we utilize these dollars for demolishing substandard units or substandard structures in low-income communities. The address need having a particular urgency, we have never used that national objective. Of course, obviously with COVID, that we could have repurposed some of the funding to address needs had we needed to. But of course, obviously we received special CDBG funding from HUD for COVID. So we did not have to do that. The next slide, Karen. Again, the funding has to meet a national objective, but again, every dollar that we expend, it has to assist a low moderate income family. The funding that with a home or the CDBG, this is the scale. I think you guys have seen this numerous times. This is the scale that we go by. It's provided by HUD every year and it's adjusted. So everything that we do, we gauge it and follow the recommendations or the requirements based on eligibility when we're providing services or assisting families with housing or homeowner loans or access to home ownership. Next slide, Karen. And every project or program or activity that we fund or carry out, it has to be tied back to the 5-year consolidated plan. Last year, Donna and I made a presentation to you regarding that 5-year plan, and that plan, of course, outlines what the city proposes to do with this funding for that 5-year period and how it will focus the funding. And so each year, as we are reviewing and how we anticipate spending the funding, we tie everything back to what we have said we're going to do in that consolidated plan. The next slide, Karen. And so each year, as we release a request for applications from local nonprofits and for-profit organizations. And as part of that application, the respondent has to ensure that the program or the activity that they're requesting funding for does address one of the program priorities. And so for the 2021, the activities and the priority programs that we highlighted is increasing affordable housing, preserving affordable housing stock, providing housing services to special needs populations, increasing opportunities for citizens to access and retain affordable housing, supporting neighborhood stabilization, and also supporting economic development activities in the city. So in March, the 1st of February, we released the application, and the application was due back March 1st. And the respondents, you can go to the next slide, Karen. And when the applications are turned back in, we look at each applicant or application, and this is how we determine whether or not we can consider those applications for funding. We ask, again, is it outlined in the consolidated plan or action plan? Is it eligible? Does it meet one of those national objectives? Will it address or assist low mod income targeting requirements? And also, will it be able to comply with the other federal requirements that go along with the funding? So, on March 29th, the community development staff met with our members from our Citizens Advisory Board, and we reviewed the applications that were submitted for funding for the CDBG. This, I will not try to read through all of this, and because the PowerPoints will be available. And if you have any questions, you can kind of ask me about specific activities in general. But these are the applicants that submitted requests for funding. And we have the request column and the recommendation column for, this is the Chattanooga Community Housing Development Organization, just highlighting that program is for roofing, for low mod income households. They have been carrying out this program for at least 8 years and have been extremely successful in providing assistance through that program. So, and then all the way down to the United Way, they're requesting funding for the 211 food line and support operations and dedicated information for referral services. Karen, you can go to the next page. As part of the request, we also incorporate or have allocations to city departments. The SLAP program, which is the installation of ladder sewer lines through the Public Works Department. The code enforcement, that is for the demolition of substandard structures in low-income neighborhoods. The internally under ECD, we also manage affordable housing funds for rental rehab activities. And then I think you all are aware that the Community Development Division is the administration costs come out of these grants, and the debt service, that's the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund that is operated by Southeast Tennessee Development District. Karen, you can go to the next slide. For the home funding, that was not part of this application process per se. With the home funds, we make those funds available on a year-round RFP solicitation process. So if interested developers or nonprofit entities want to use funding for the production of affordable housing, they can go to our website, and we have a number of programs that are available, and they can apply for home funding to assist in utilizing the funding to build or renovate affordable housing. The next slide, Karen. So this is the calendar, and kind of talked a little bit just really quickly about the process. And I'm sure you're very familiar with it because we come to you every year with pretty much the same presentation. We have the deadlines that we have to follow in regards to of the public process in making the community available that the city is receiving these funds. We have an application process through which we partner with outside entities in carrying out eligible activities to assist the community. Then we, of course, make the presentation to you, the city council, in regards to these are the recommendations that sort of came out of the application process. And we prepare a report providing the details in the backdrop behind for the funding. And we make that report available on our website and to the community for 30 days for anyone to go read it and make comments or ask questions about it. And once the 30-day comment period has ended, then we will come back to City Council on May 11th for a resolution approving the recommendations if they so choose. And from there, the plan is completed and submitted to HUD, and there begins the fiscal year in July 1. One of the things that I wanted to really thank you guys again for the last 8 years. We've made these presentations to you, and we talked about affordable housing and and occasionally we'll talk about the impact of your participation and your working with us and supporting us in the recommendations and the approving the programs. And you just a minute ago, right before my presentation, there was a resolution to award some home funds to some affordable housing projects. Well, this right here will sort of give you an idea of over the past 8 years, just how impactful um, your support has been. This is over almost 300 units of affordable housing over the last 8 years. And this is an investment of nearly $250 million, really. And that $250 million, part of the funding that I just talked about is incorporated in this, but this also includes a big portion of it is private funding, along with the pilot program. And again, some of it from the CDBG and the home allocations. So I just really want to thank you for your support over the years with this. So do we have any comments or questions?
Hey, and
Thank you.
Karen, can you take it back to the previous slide? Thank you, Sandra Gober.
You're welcome, Donna. We're going to leave it on that note there.
Well, I just want to say, I want to echo what Sandra said. And I know there are people who are tuned in to Zoom who don't know all of us who work at the city, but Sandra Gober is the manager of community development, and she has been working for the city for more than 25 years and is amongst the best in the country at doing what she does. And she and I really wanted to take this opportunity, along with Richard Beeland, who helps us pull all this stuff off, to thank this council, because we won't see this council ever again. So we're very, very grateful for your support. And as Sandra has said, the little bit of money, if you guys go back and see, well, how much money was the federal money that we have? It's like $3 million. Let's round it up to 3.5. How much have we allocated for pilots? And we'll get that number for you. But the net is, at the end of the day, over the last 8 years, with this support, the support of this council, and some of you who were not on the previous council, the 2013 council, your support has allowed for the production or preservation of over 2,800 units of housing, income restricted housing. And oftentimes people will say, well, you guys are giving pilots to people who don't need it. Well, the pilot units are built into this. The home units are built into this. Public housing units are built into this. Units that are made available because of low income tax credits through THDA are built into this. But this is kind of like the story of the fishes and loaves, because a fraction of that $290 million is money that was provided by the citizens of Chattanooga. The bulk, vast majority of that money is private money that we attract through private developers and the banks and investors that support their projects. But it would not be possible if it weren't for the climate that's been created by this city council, and we're very grateful for it.
Thank you, Donna. Council, is there any questions for Ms. Gober or Ms. Williams?
Mr. Chair, I've got Councilwoman Coonrod's hand up.
Okay, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Donna and Ms. Sandra. Hopefully you guys will be able to be a part of this administration if you want to stay. But if not, it's been great working with you guys. I've learned a lot from you, both prior to me serving on council. So I'm excited to serve in my second term. Of course, I'll be coming to still glean off your couch too. But just a couple of questions that I've got with this affordable housing. And I still kind of struggle with that, and the constituents that I serve, they struggle with it too, with the meaning. Like, I understand the meaning of it, but I just think people aren't grasping exactly what that means, because we no longer, it's 2021, we're not, houses aren't $400 or $500 anymore. We're past that era.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yes.
So they would love to have that back, but I mean, that's just like bringing bubble gum back when it was 10 cents. It's $1 now. But so to preserve an affordable housing, how are we preserving it? Is it through pilots or how are we preserving it?
It's all of the above.
Yeah,
So
it
an
is.
example
Mhm.
of the preservation using a pilot would be the recent pilot that you all approved for Battery Heights. We also use the money to provide free home repair. Councilman Henderson is very instrumental in that, where we have nonprofits that come in and they do home repair for low income, typically senior citizens, at no cost to the senior citizen. We also use federal money for very low interest loans for folks who want to reinvest in their housing by doing the inevitable maintenance and repairs that one has to do when they own a home. So it goes, and then, those loans are facilitated by CNE. So it goes across all of the funding sources that we have available to us as far as people being able to preserve the property that they own so that it remains up to code. And in some cases, of course, beyond just meeting the minimum of code requirements. And then also the work that Ms. Evans does at the Chodo, the roofing program. That's another way that we use our funds to preserve low-income housing.
And another thing that we do when we provide or infuse the federal funds into a project, particularly the rental projects, we require that the property owner adhere to restrictions, that they will rent the unit to a low-income family for a certain number of years based on the amount of investment that we provide. And for some of those projects, it requires that the property is affordable for up to 20 years.
Okay, and then the special needs housing, does that include anybody returning from prison, or is it just, I mean,
Well, it's not a category specifically called out by HUD, but someone wanted to make application through the process that Ms. Gober just described, that certainly would be very, very intriguing. And I think the Citizen Advisory Board would welcome an application such as that.
okay. And then, so you mentioned blight in your slide, and that was pretty much by condemning them or tearing down the properties. But outside of that, the city owns a lot of property that's blighted. What are we all doing for the upkeep with that, for the blighted city-owned property?
Well, these
Yeah,
funds
I
cannot,
think, Sandra, is it?
yeah,
Go ahead,
these
Sandra,
funds
I'm sorry.
cannot be used to address properties that are owned by the city. So this isn't the category or allowed use for the funding to maintain city-owned property.
Okay. And then you mentioned,
But Councilwoman, to that extent, you know how we recently started sending you guys the list of properties that are going before court for demolition? Sometimes but those are privately owned properties, of course,
Right.
which is why we can sometimes use this money to take care of blight that way. We just can't use it on the property that's owned by a municipality, which of course in our case is the city of Chattanooga.
Right.
okay. And then one last question. On the United Way, how much money were they requesting for the 211 food line?
The 99,000.
99,000. Okay,
Mhm.
and could you just let me know if you have any numbers to support, like, why would they need 99,000? Because I'm not really sure that it's a food, like people don't have money, or is it that they don't have access to get food? Because we don't, all the people that we've been supplying food to, like they're getting thousands of dollars in food stamps, and it's all kind of stuff. I mean, I'm the one that's going hungry. They're not going without food. So I'm just curious as to why
Sure.
99.
Well, I would say this, Councilwoman, and I think the council knows that I'm a big fan of data, regularly collected data to make decisions. And one of the things I was shocked of, completely blew my mind when COVID first started, is the number one request was for food.
Yeah.
And I think that was in part because folks had children who were home and who were accustomed to being a real crisis because they had also lost their jobs. Can y'all hear me? My internet thing says it's unstable. But yeah, but Councilwoman, we of course have the full application submitted by all of the folks who requested funding. We'd be happy to provide the application for any of them, including United Way. But food is a big need, especially back then. That was a big need.
Right, I agree during the COVID, but and you can pull it up, we can pull the receipts up to where it says like our government specifically gave them triple the amount. So kids were at home, they were getting food stamps, each kid, they were getting thousands, and on top of the ones that were unemployed, they were getting regular checks plus additional money and funding. I just want to make sure that we're not still creating a narrative that people are without food. Now, our seniors who only get $12 a month in food stamps, yes, that's a need. But we need to be honest about what's going on. I mean, I want people to have access to all the food that they need. But if you're getting an amount that, you're getting food, we need to talk about how you're spending your money versus do you actually need a food box? We got to be honest because I've seen people, we could talk about all that offline, but the end result is.
I think you need to run for federal office. I think that would take care of that, Councilwoman. Yeah.
And part of the request and the program itself is to try to actually help eliminate some of the duplication of services. So it's a good bit of it is a referral system so that they can actually work with the churches and the food bank and make sure that the families are not sort of surfing around to different agencies. But this does help to eliminate some of the duplication.
Okay, great. Do they have a system where our seniors can have priority for the food boxes? Because I kind of think that's where the need is.
They did not specifically
I don't
say
think we have.
anything
That's
about
a good question for them.
prioritizing. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all you have, Councilwoman? Those are some really, really great questions. Thank you for those questions. Mr. Chair, you seen anybody?
Councilwoman Burrs.
Okay, Councilman Burrs.
Hey, Donna, follow up on that question. Is the $99,000, it doesn't really give people food. It's for the 211, right?
Correct.
Exactly.
United Way doesn't provide food. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't heard y'all's answers went over each other.
The application is for the infrastructure to help with the infrastructure of the calls that come into 211 and matching, as Ms. Gober was saying, to come up with better ways to make sure that the available resources are being more equitably distributed based on need. But you're correct. It's not for food. No, ma'am.
Right. So it's for helping come up with a better administration system or IT system or whatever it takes to make sure. Okay. And we contribute to 211, but we're part of the group of people that contribute to 211 on a regular basis.
I'm not sure. You mean, is there a special allocation other than them going through this process?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think so. I do know that I believe that the city, through the regular budget share process, that United Way has submitted BFOs, but I really can speak to if they've been awarded. This is just specifically for the federal money that community development receives.
So where I was going with this is, I'm wondering, have we taken a look at all the areas of need in the city that would be direct service to people, as opposed to giving 99,000 to a phone system, a referral service, whatever it is that's helping organize. When we first were looking at all of this in January, we had the complete report of United Way Funds, who, by the way, does a fabulous job of everything. This isn't a criticism of them at all. But there were something like $10 million or more in reserves undesignated. And I'm trying to figure out why we're using this money. And it's an ignorant question. It's not a critical question. When there are so many people right now that need more direct funds, what's our thinking about doing that?
Well, Sandra, I'll go first and let you respond also. The thing with the federal money is, number one, the activity has to be eligible. So there may be plenty. I'm thinking of an organization that does phenomenal work with folks that are generally in the 30 to 50% AMI range. But this particular organization does not have the infrastructure to remain compliant and give us the reports and the application process, who they did, collecting income, so on and so forth. They don't have the infrastructure to do that. So many of the folks that provide direct service, they're not eligible for use of the federal funds, to receive the federal funds. And in part, because they don't have the types of infrastructure that the federal funds even pay for. So there are a lot of people doing really good work, but what they do is not eligible activity under the federal guidelines.
I guess I was thinking more, and then I'll be through, Mr. Chair, but I guess I was thinking more of light and actual food that people need, other than giving that amount of money to somebody who kind of organizes what that is. And particularly right now, with reserves like they have, I was trying to figure out why it would not be used to perhaps enhance blighted neighborhoods, enhance fixing up homes, enhance more low-income housing, which is a really big need of ours. I was just trying to figure out what the thinking was there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Burrs. Mr. Chair, anybody else?
I do not see any other hands, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Donna, for a great presentation. Mr. Chair, that concludes my part of this council meeting. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. And council, I would like to note that this is Mr. Chairman's last ECD meeting that he'll be chairing for us. And I want to point out, sir, that you have done a professional job in that role and guided us well there. Thank you, sir.
Very much, Mr. Chair. It's been my pleasure to serve in this capacity.
Councilman Ledford?
Support from my colleagues. So, this is a team. It's a team. We're a team. We just happen to be sitting in this particular chair at the time, but I can't do it without y'all.
Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to say thank you to our chairman of ECD. Councilman, you've always been passionate, diligent, direct, focused, engaged, solid in thought and motive in serving as our chairman of ECD. And in any role you have had on this council. You will be some big shoes to fill going forward, and your impact will be felt positively throughout this community for a very long time. And I know this isn't the end of your economic or community development interaction with this community and this city. And I look forward in the next roles that you assume, and know that I will be there with a hand in friendship for you always, sir.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Burrs?
On that, both of you, Councilman Oglesby and Councilman Gilbert, I'm going to miss you guys. You've been fabulous to work with. You've been good friends. You're the ultimate professionals. And I'm going to miss you. And I'm not going to fail to call on you for help or helping me think things through. I think you're just great guys. And thank you so much for letting me learn from you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's been great working with both of you guys, Erskine and Gilbert. Gilbert, I appreciate you drawing me out of the lines of District 5 so I can have the opportunity to serve with you on here on 9. But I've learned a lot from you guys. You guys never hesitate to answer my call. I've cried on you guys' shoulder. I always keep me focused and moving in the right direction. And, just our friendship went beyond just serving on the council together because we were friends and you guys helped me with a lot of things prior to me running for council. And just watching you guys doing amazing work in the community and help to inspire me and encourage me let me know that I can accomplish anything that I dreamt of accomplishing. Just thinking about where you come from, Erskine, to where you are now. Different job opportunities and doors that you've had open for you that ultimately led to, people like me being able to enter into those doors as well. And Gilbert, especially we don't went round and round about Eastdale, but you understood my passion. You've always pointed me in the right direction and made sure that I stayed focused. It wasn't a moment that, when I needed help with Peyton, that you and your family wasn't there. So I'm just really appreciate both of you guys. And I'm gonna be calling you guys. It's been a pleasure.
Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. I really mean it when I say you guys are my big brothers. I love you both. I think you are some awesome men. I hope just one day I can aspire to be as great as you guys and can create the legacy that you both have created. And just thank you for being stand-up guys and people that I can look up to, because we need that in our city. And I'm truly honored to serve with you and truly honored to know you and truly honored to call y'all my brothers. Thank you.
Well, I was going to say too, a word about it at our 4 o'clock meeting, I guess it would be. I certainly didn't want to leave Councilman Gilbert out. And I've made this statement before, and I really mean this. Councilman Gilbert's heart is big as the great outdoors. I want to thank you for being able to have honest and open conversation with you. I've never felt like I couldn't share my heart with you and just be open, and I never felt threatened or in any way. And I've always appreciated that open dialogue that we've had, sir. And I will miss you. You've been on this council since I came on board. So I appreciate your hard work and your faithfulness on this council as well. Councilman Lefford, you got a follow-up?
Well, I do, sir, because I was going to hold some comments till 4 o'clock, but I feel like the moment is now. Councilman Gilbert, I was going to say this at 4 o'clock, but you and I have talked a lot on the phone. We've had some incredible conversations. I've learned so much from you, and I appreciate your, as it's been said before, your open heart, our friendship, and breaking bread with you has been one of the highlights of my Tuesdays for the last 4 years. So I will miss that. And like I've told you on Zoom, I've missed seeing you in person. And I want you to know that I think it's important for us in this world these days. And I appreciate what Councilman Byrd said. I do. I love you too, brother. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And I want you to know that my door and my heart is always open for you. There's my 4 o'clock.
I'll give you gentlemen an opportunity to say something at 4. How's that? That work? All right. I think that concludes our business for this afternoon at our 3:30 agenda, our 1:30 agenda, I guess. We do need attorney-client privilege. So I guess at this time we need to end our Zoom meeting. Mute the microphone so that we make sure that they're not heard out in the halls or in the back. And we will ask everyone to excuse himself while we have an attorney-client. Thank you.